Welcome to Sama, Seattle Sacred Music and Art. I'm Derek Mazzoni, your host. Thanks for being here. I hope you're well, and if you're not, I hope that changes soon. I've been saying that quite a bit lately, but, it feels like the right thing to say at this particular time. I hope you've enjoyed all of the sessions we produce here weekly. Obviously, last week we focused on Ukraine with our sessions with Raga Pop and Doc Daughters, also leading up to finally having concerts with Daka Braka being here in Seattle on April 15th and 16th. And more importantly, if they're playing here, they're playing wherever you may be because they're on tour trying to get their message and their music out. I have an artist tonight that I'm really jazzed to talk to and to present his music. We've had him on before. He plays with a band I've been a fan of for quite a bit called Niyaz. So we'll put a link to that session with him. But he is now working on a solo project. He's also working with a new Kurdish singer. This artist, his name is Sinan Cem Eroglu. He's a musician, music producer, multi-instrumentalist, composer, living in Hamburg, Germany, originally from Istanbul. His music combines Turkish traditions with jazz, world/global electronics, and his albums were reviewed and charted by internationally acclaimed music magazines such as Songlines and others throughout his career. He's played a whole bunch of music festivals. He's also really, really quite good. I mean, it's not just like I'm a pianist or I'm a guitarist. He does it all. He plays the ney, which is a beautiful Turkish woodwind instrument. He plays the microtonal guitar, and he plays zaz, which is a stunning string instrument from Turkey that I've been talking about quite a bit. He graduated from the Istanbul Technical University in a Turkish Music State Conservatory as the highest ranked student in 2009. Impressive. His parents must like that a lot. And he participated in international concerts, album soundtracks, TV and radio shows with his kaval, fretless guitar, kopuz, and vocal performances, including BBC Radio 3 and Mezzo TV. Let's see. He established the first microtonal guitar duo with Dr. Tolgahan Cogulu, we've had on from Womex, and he played him at the Miami International Guitar Fest. He gave us some great songs. We're going to chat with Sinan in just a bit, but let's hear some music first right now on Sama, Seattle Sacred Music and Art. Thanks for being here.
Derdimi dökersem derin dereye, doldurur dereyi, düz olur gider. Doldurur dereyi, düz olur gider. Rakipler geldi, girdi araya. Korkarım yar benden, yoz olur gider. Korkarım yar benden, yoz olur gider. Pervanen ateşten sakınmaz canım. Uğruna koymuşum başı bedeni, uğruna koymuşum başı bedeni. Doldur tüfeğini, hedef et beni. Yaram 99, 100 olur gider. Yaram 99, 100 olur gider. Veyseller çıkayım bir yüce dağa, ağaçlar bezenmiş yeşil yaprağa. Ağaçlar bezenmiş yeşil yaprağa. Zaman gelir tenim düşer toprağa, karışır toprağa, toz olur gider. Karışır toprağa, toz olur gider.
Sinan, thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here, actually.
Nice to have you back. You played with Niyaz. You were in Seattle before.
Yeah.
We've had you on my show at KEXP, which is awesome. Obviously, a lot's changed since that time. It's been a rather challenging couple of years. Tell me, what's your life been like?
I mean, technically, it was the latest show that we played with Niyaz in 2020. It was in Seattle. Actually, technically, your show was the latest show that we played with Niyaz.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Yes, yeah. So after that, it was the first show that we played with Niyaz. It was in the last week in Phoenix, Arizona. So it was really good, and we missed a lot to be on stage. Actually, yeah. And life is changed. And yeah, I mean, production of music is changed, way of music is changed. So I am both sad and happy about these changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, let's go deeper. I mean, you're Turkish. You speak in poems, and you're supposed to, a musician, you're supposed to be able to, like, I don't put pressure on you, I'm sorry. Express the human pathos in a condition. But what has it been like for you as a musician, and also just as a human being, knowing that you're supposed to perform? It's kind of like a half of something, because if you're performing, there's an audience, and you're getting something from the audience.
Yeah. I mean, I used to play with the bands and with the musicians in ensembles, but just because of pandemic, I started to play alone as a solo artist. So I developed a live looping sessions in behalf of my site. So from now on, I don't need any other musicians on the stage to play my own shows. So yeah, I play guitars, fretless guitars, saz, and the kaval and the vocals. So I don't need any other musician, which is good, but also it's sad because I love to share music on stage with other musicians. It's emotion, you know. Yeah. But it was really hard during pandemic to perform. Yeah, that's why I recorded 2 albums during pandemic in my studio here in Hamburg, Germany, and I uploaded many videos on YouTube. So it was kind of therapy for me, you know that. But I mean, for 4 months or 5 months, it's already begun to share the stage with other musicians. So I'm really happy to do that actually.
Okay, so you're, but you were talking about that. It was, there's a little bit of like a lament because you discovered that you didn't need these musicians. You could actually, I mean, need is the different. It wasn't absolutely required to that. You could actually do all this stuff yourself. As myself here, it's like, I'm doing this. I usually work with the crew. We're at a session.
Yes.
And so you empowered yourself. You're suddenly, I didn't know I could do this because now you have to do this. Now you're going back into playing with musicians and playing live and traveling again. What will you take from the 2 years that we had of pandemic time that you'll continue with the future we have right now, or nothing?
Oh, it's a hard question to answer it, but all I can say that I boosted my abilities, my talents actually. So I forced myself. For example, I learned how to speak German, for example, during pandemic, and I learned how to edit on Photoshop, or how can I edit my own videos on computer. So that's why pandemic was useful for me. But I missed my friends, and I missed to share that moment on stage. For example, on stage as a solo artist, I cannot share the improvisations when I play solo on stage. So it was really brutal for me because, it's like jazz. So when you play an improvisation, you want to ask a question to other musician and you want to have an answer from them. Which I cannot do that as a solo artist on stage. But on the other hand, it developed my abilities and my solo playing techniques on guitar and all the other electronics and on the other pedals. So so that's why I'm just natural about the pandemic. So it's like it was good for me and it was bad for me. So I am equal now.
I mean, you're alive, so let's not forget. We're like, I learned a lot while people were dying. It's like, okay. In the same situation, I catch myself a little bit like, this was real. This was one of our historical moments. You know? It feels like we're living in pretty intense times, obviously. And I realized that actually all human being is really defenseless because we cannot see that virus, but we are defeated by these viruses. So it means a lot to me, actually. Yeah. So, but you continue to be a musician. Some people stopped. Some people are like, I can't really do this. Some people just, I'm not, whatever I'm getting, that conversation that you're talking about, having with other musicians, once people stopped having that conversation, they chose not to talk anymore. That way. So, but you continued and you grew. So, bravo to continue.
Thank you so much. But I mean, it would be really hard to sustain my life if I were just musician or just performer, because at the same time, I'm a producer, sound engineer, and instrument teacher. So sometimes I teach guitar for 10 students at the same time. So it's a life to put on the bread on the table, that. So that's why I could survive easily. But it was really brutal, actually.
You had other options. Thank you for sharing that. I want to know a little bit like what got you into this thing, because I always ask people their origin story, and yours is pretty. I don't know your origin story yet, but you picked up a lot of different instruments. It's not like I play guitar. I play flute. You're like, I want to do this and this and this and this. It seems like there's something you're trying to say here. But let's hear another song right now, because you provided us some beautiful, beautiful videos. Now, before we go into that, this is a new project with Attila. Tell me about this artist and tell me about what drew you to this.
3 years ago, I moved to Hamburg, Germany, and as soon as I moved to here, I met really beautiful musicians here. And Attila is one of those musicians. He's Kurdish originally, but he's from Turkey too, and he lives here in Germany for 30 years, and he's an amazing singer. And last month in March, at the end of the Feb, one of the best saz and bağlama players in Turkey came to my studio. He's my friend, Muhlis Berberoğlu. So we decided to give a concert. So it was offered to us to perform in a really beautiful church here in Hamburg. So this video comes from that performance. And actually Attila just texted me and he said that I know you and I know your music, so let's meet. So we met in my studio, and as soon as I listened his voice, I was shocked actually. I was amazed by his voice. It was really amazing. And then he's a really good singer. So I'm producing his albums and his singles right now. Yeah, that was the short history of the project actually.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. And here it is. Ansama, Siyaset Music and Art.
Tez kuştum nesrine, dilim dixwaze tebbine, gulil kan soruşine, tezdin kırım ledi, tezdin kırım ledi, dilim dixwaze tebbine, gulil kan soruşine, tezdin kırım ledine. Çavreşe, çavreşe, dilgeşe, ruek bisteri kabnekşe, roj renge çavreşe, liber mala medmeşe, liber mala medmeşe, ruek bisteri kabnekşe, roj renge çavreşe, liber mala medmeşe. Bnere, evina mnu xabnere, duhaye vekzi buzere, wane rond kinçava, birhu becan bere, birhu becan bere, duhaye vekzi buzere, wane birond kinçava, birhu becan bere, duhaye vekzi buzere, wane birond kinçava, birhu becan bere.
Beautiful music.
Thank
Ansama
you.
from Sinan Cem Eroglu. And we're here right now. We're talking about a bunch of things. A stunning piece of cathartic performance, and I appreciate that. Looking forward to seeing more and hearing more. But why music? Why this? And why at the level where you're doing multi-instruments and producing, engineering? You know, there are dabblers and there are people that are like, no, this is it. What is it about music, and specifically this, that seems to have resonated with you at such a level, Sinan, where there's a lot at play here? Please explain.
Yeah, sure. Well, the first reason is my father is a saz bağlama maker. So he makes saz bağlama for the best players in Turkey and for all over the world, yeah. And he's a legend in Turkey in the bağlama makers scene, right? So he made bağlama for the best players in Turkey like Arif Sağ, Erkan Oğur, Orhan Gencebay, and all this stuff. So my father's workshop is my first school, actually. So I saw all the big Turkish masters in his workshop. And I was affected by these masters, actually. So I decided to study music. So when I was 12, I enrolled to Istanbul Technical University kids music department, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I pick up the kaval, which is a Turkish flute. And I had no idea what kaval is at that age, right? So
Yeah.
I was affected by one of the teachers at the school. So he recommended me that you should play kaval, because kaval is a really ancient instrument and it sounds amazingly good. So you should play it. It was my history. So my first instrument is kaval, actually. But at the same time, because of my father is a saz maker, I also learned how to play saz. Bağlama, saz, or the other name is saz.
Okay.
Yeah, bağlama and kaval are
But
my
those are
first
two
instruments.
completely different instruments. Those are like, you know, it's not like going from guitar to bass. That's...
Yeah, I mean, one of them is wind instrument, the other is string instrument. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's no connection between two of them. Yeah, but it was the beginning of my story, actually. So yeah, for maybe 5 or 6 years, I played at the same time. I played saz and kaval at the same time. Then I decided to learn guitar because I was amazed by Western music harmony. Because in school we were studied by the great teachers, and then they studied us about Turkish music and at the same time Western music. So I learned harmony. So I just thought that, okay, I should combine that Turkish music with the Western harmonies. That's why I learned guitar. And story ended up with the fretless guitar, because fretless guitar is a guitar, but at the same time it's a microtonal instrument. So I can both play microtones and the chords. Yeah. So that's why I just started to play fretless guitar.
Okay.
Yeah, then I studied composition and the music technology. So I just combined all of them. So now that's why I'm a producer. At the same time, I'm a performer on the stage, actually.
Perfect.
And Turkey is a country with full of music, right? So, I mean, as a baby, I listened many lullabies from my mother and from my family. And those were all in Turkish makam music. So as soon as a baby was born in Turkey, he or she started to hear Hijaz makam in Turkey. So it's a microtonal music history for a baby. It starts as soon as you was born.
So, you're talking about lullabies and the role lullabies have in a makam. What is a makam?
Makam is technically a scale, but in Turkish music and in Turkish, instead of saying scale, we say makam. Actually, scale is a makam. That's it. So it's like when you say C major scale, people know it. But when you say çargah makam, nobody understands it. But çargah makam is actually C major. That's it. Just different naming. Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. The instruments that you started to play and their role in the country, I find really interesting, because Turkey is an ancient country, obviously one of the ancient countries on the planet, and has a history that can be tapped from a musician's perspective through recorded music. It's not just like sheet music per se or oral history. Turkey was one of the first regions of the world that had a prolific recording industry. There were a lot of shellac 78s that were released. A lot of there was an attempt. I read about this. There was an attempt during the Ottoman Empire to actually create and document the music of the empire. And empire was incredibly broad, from Persia, to Greece and then some. So you have a pretty powerful legacy to tap into. What role does that legacy play in the music that you're playing, performing? Because you're 36 now, right?
Yeah. That's right.
So you're a young man and you're living in Hamburg. You're living in the West. Like you fell in love with Western guitar, and you're hearing stuff all the time. I'm curious what that relationship to the music of your tradition, specifically, to where you are right now, and the music that you're hearing, and the music that you're even performing right now, like with Niyaz.
Yeah, sure. As you said, I mean, Turkey is one of the ancient music scene in the world. But these old recordings were made by, not the Ottomans, but were made by French and the Americans at that time, and the British. Because on that time, all the recording machines were belonged to those nations. And after that, during 20s and 30s, these recordings were released by a voice of owner company in US, right? But unfortunately, we could reach that records 13 years or 14 years ago. In the modern Turkey, we could reach them. So that's why we have a gap between 30s until 2000s, so nobody could hear this music, so nobody could find easily those music. It was really bad for all the history of Turkish music. So thanks to Kalan Music and Hasan Saltık, because they released that music at the beginning of 2000s. Yeah, so this was the short story of the recording scene in Turkey.
Was that like a revolution almost, or like a revelation where people started to hear this stuff for the first time, or was it underground or academy?
Yes, before 2000s, it was underground, actually, all I can say that. I mean, people had these archives, but nobody shared those archives with the others. So it was really valuable stuff until 2000s. But now all these recordings are available on all the digital streaming platforms, which is really good, which I found this is amazing. But when I listen these old recordings, I feel like we cannot play anything, because those guys play amazingly, right? Especially Tamburi, Cemil Bey, Udi, Hrant, and the old other great masters, actually. But those people's music is affected. Those people's music's affected me, because when I listen them, every time I learn something. Oh, look at the scale, look at the ornaments, look at the melodic progression, right? So I still learn them. And because I moved to Germany, I took my music with me to Germany, right? So that's why I try to combine these ancient music with the Western music, actually. Yeah.
And you're putting it together.
Yeah, I try.
Okay. No, you're succeeding. It's beautiful work.
Thank you.
How did you and Azam and Logan of Niyaz come together?
It was, I think, 8 or 9 years ago. We just thought about that on last week. So at that time, they were looking for a saz and kaval player, but they couldn't find anybody. And at that time, I had a manager and friend, Rıza. So Rıza was the same at the same time. He was the manager of the Niyaz in Turkey. So Loga and Azam just asked to Rıza, anybody who can play kaval and saz. Niyaz. So Rıza said that I know the right guy. And we met virtually on Skype, and Loga offered me to a show in Indonesia, Bali. And at that time I was living in Istanbul. So first we met in front of hotel in Bali, Indonesia.
Wow.
Yeah, and one rehearsal, then show.
Wow.
It was the
Okay.
beginning of this story. So I am a part of Niyaz. So I am the third member of Niyaz, Loga, Azam, and me. So it was really good for me, that experience. Yeah.
So before we hear the next song that you presented us, what's the plan now? You're touring with Niyaz, so you're doing that. You have a record with Attila. What's Attila's full name?
Atilla Yusufoğlu. So I'm producing his album right now, and we played really good shows here in Hamburg with the saz player Muhlis Berberoğlu and Attila. So we are gonna release the live recordings album next week. And then, yeah, so we have 3 shows with Niyaz in Chicago, New York, and Philadelphia in April. Yeah, these are the plans for the near future, actually.
Okay. Okay. So you're actually able to, so it's coming back to life a little bit, reality.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
Okay. Sinan, thank you so much for this. Please stay in touch. We'll have links to your work. I'm so glad we were able to connect like this.
Yeah,
Be
I
well.
want to thank you. Yeah, it was really great to be here, actually.
Thank you. Be well. And thanks for the music. We'll talk to you
Thank
soon.
you. Bye.
Müzik